Do, do, do. All right, let's see. All right, let's see.
So it already watered these, or do we have to?
No, supposedly it's on a timer. I don't should.
So it already watered these, or do we have to?
No, supposedly it's on a timer. I don't shouldn't have to touch it. All right, so welcome. We're gonna be. Hey, what up, Jay? Touch it. All right, so welcome. We're gonna be. Hey, what up, Jay? Oh yeah, that's right. All right, so welcome. We're gonna be. Hey, what up, Jay? Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. I gotta connect to the Wi-Fi. Hold on a second. Killing on that one. Give that a second. So we're just gonna give it a second, let a couple people get in here before we get moving. Yeah, things are good. Things are always good. Things are always good. Things are good. Any situation that you get yourself into, you can find a way to turn it into something negative. It's all the way that your mind sees it, right? And so, whether somebody's good or not can be found to be good in the strangest of situations, things that you wouldn't believe yourself to be able to venture through, right? And then there's times when things are just good because they're just good, right? We don't always have to look for the good in the situation. Sometimes it's just there. But the thing that people find the most difficult is finding the good in the situations that they consider to be bad. Right? Something that a lot of people need to work on, because if you can't, then you're always going to be stuck carrying that weight around with you, making it so that you yourself can never move past these types of things that you deem to be unfit for what you typically enjoy, right? So, always try to look for a better side to something. Otherwise, you're just going to drown yourself in misery consistently. And all that ends up doing is getting other people around you to be just as miserable. Right? Because what you put out is what you get back always. So, we're going to go back to the basics, because, people need to learn the basics. Once people have learned the basics, then things will become more advanced for them on their own. So, give me 1 second while I get my stuff prepared over here. And we'll get into it. Now, I know that what I'm showing you might seem a little scary if you're from the Bible, they tell you all kinds of stuff about these works, right? But the truth of the reality is that the Bible comes from these works. So don't come in here flipping out on me about Jesus. If you notice, you can't mention that name, Yeshua, Yahweh, or Allah in my chat. Why? Because y'all be unrelentless. Y'all just be relentless with that stuff sometimes, man. Like, y'all know how to control yourself. So, just added a little bit of control in there for you. So let's get into what are known, right? Now, there's going to be some people that are going to come in here angry and upset because they don't know how to read the hieroglyphs this way. Why? Because they got taught the basics. The basics is the meta nature, right? The meta nature gives you the writing, right? But the writing doesn't explain the pictures. And so you only get a small portion of the big picture. Now, the thing is that, you know, they tell you that throughout time, people went to visit these civilizations, right? In order for them to learn things like biology, science, you know, astrology and psychology and all these different things, but nobody can apparently show you where it all is and what the symbols mean that actually tell you about it, right? So we're going to break that down for you so that you can understand these hieroglyphs a little bit easier than what the average person knows. Yeah, of course I don't call it astral projection though, Issa. I just call it traveling. Okay, we don't like to call these things the names that they've been given, because the names that they've been given have certain implications that are tied to them, and those implications will restrict your abilities just by the simple name and the definitions that carry with it. So, let's begin, shall we? Right from the basics. First, the Lamb of God, right? The brain, okay? Or Amun, right? Amun is the representation of your lateral ventricles. These are what is also known as the aqueduct of the brain. This is what connects all of the pieces together, making it so that your brain can function. The ram itself, as you can see here, is clearly seen inside the brain when you're tracing the where the waters pass through. Okay. Now, what this does is gives your ability for you to think and the ability for you to move, right? That's Amun's horn. Now, in the Bible, they tell you that you're the Lamb of God, right? I don't know if you know what the lamb looks like, but this is a lamb. This is why they say that. This is where those terms come from. Okay. So, Amun, the ram, is the representation of the ventricles. Okay. The serpent that sits up top is the representation of your frontal lobe. See how it's got that little circle right there? That's the same thing that you see right here. Okay. So the serpent is this portion right here. See how it leans back and wraps around? Comes up. Okay. So now, why would it have two serpents? Both sides of the brain. Two sides to the brain. Okay. So your lateral ventricles are Amun. Now, to even further this, you see, Amun's horn is what is known as the C4 of your hippocampus. Okay. This is the thing that controls the cognitive abilities within your body. Notice how it's named Amun's horn. Okay. And everything that feeds Amen is your foramen. Right? These are all the holes that you'll find within your bones and within your cranium that go through your spine. This is your lateral. This is your vertebral foramen, which you'll find in all of the vertebrae. No, it doesn't represent the woman's ovaries. I will mute you if you can't see in front of you what it literally says. Literally named Amun's horn. This is straight out of the medical books. Okay, Amun's horn. Amun's horn. Okay. Okay. Nothing to do with gods. Nothing to do with any type of deity. Literally your body. Okay. So you have your vertebral foramen. After your vertebral foramen, you have the neural foramen that passes through it, which is your what? Your nerve root. Okay. And then from that, you go down to the greater and lesser sciatic foramen, which are the holes in the hips. Now, for anybody that's studied Christ consciousness, they tell you that you have to take the energy from the brain, has to pass down your spinal column, go down to your hips, where it's mixed, and then it has to return. All of the area that your supposed Christ consciousness comes from passes through your foramen. and it goes to feed Amun's horn. Right? Okay? So, Amun. Right? So Amun is the representation of your brain itself. Okay? No deities here. There's no gods here. Okay? These are stories that are given to people to keep them at base level. Okay? Because at base level, you would think, oh, Amun was the creator god. Right? He was the god of creation, and he created everything, and then he created Isis, and he created Osiris, and then Osiris and Isis had Anubis and Sekhmet, and Anubis and Sekhmet, and had Set, and okay, so the beginner level is giving you this idea of gods. All the stories that they give you about the gods are simply allegories to what they actually represent. Okay, so that's the story of Amun. Now, let's see. Right. Let's see. Who's after Amun? You have Hathor, right? The cow. Gotta wait for this picture to clear up. What the fuck? I turn the internet back on. Will it clear up? Why is it blurry? Ah, there we go. Okay, so. Oh, shut up. Here, let me help you out. Let me help you out there, guy. I'm just going to mute you. I'm just going to mute you for like 5 minutes so that you can clear your mind and stop regurgitating all the basic nonsense that they give to everybody so that they can't understand this, okay? So I'm just going to mute you for a couple minutes. Now, so Hathor, the cow, right, or the ox, right? So the ox, if you notice the hat that the ox has, right, the crown. If you notice on the crown, you have the male phallus, which you see here, right? And you see the womb for the female, right? And what are you all seeing here? Okay, you have the male phallus, the seed, and the female womb, right? Okay, the horns for the female go outward, right? Just like the horns for the male go straight up. Okay, the horns for the male has the phallus attached to it. The horns with the female has the bulb. Okay, so when you're looking at Hathor, the crown that she wears represents both male and female reproductive organs. That's why they call it the Bi-Bull. Or you have what? The beginning of the thing that they call Baphomet, right? Baphomet is the male, is an ox, right? Is an ox that's both, it's a hermaphrodite, both male and female, right? So the Bi-Bull, or the alpha and the omega, right, is your reproductive organs. Okay? See, look, your alpha, there's your letter A, capital A for your alpha, and your lowercase a for your omega. See? That's all you got to do to make it the omega. Okay? So, you know, once we begin to understand the basics of these animals, they'll be able to speak to you as they're meant to, right? Because the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field have more knowledge of man than man does, right? That's what they tell you in the Bible, because the Bible is referencing to this. Now, the different serpents of the body, right? All right. So, during different times, different things are represented, all right? Oh, here, let me help you out. Block. Let me help you out there, guy. Now, the different ways that the serpent is coiled up will let you know the different things that it represents, right? In this case, you have the serpent that is representing your what? The large intestine, right? The stomach lining, okay? That's why it's curled up like that and then pops up like this. Okay, and that's attached to what? The spinal column. All right, and these are the vertebrae. So, here we go. Let's go like that. Now, right? So this is what your stomach looks like on a microscopic level. Okay, That's your stomach on a microscopic level. That's why you have the snake that's coiled up like this. Now, why would it have the wings on the end of it? Because the end is what opens and closes, which allows it to come and go. The wings represent your muscles, okay? The feathers of the wings represent the muscles, right? And look, they're attached to your vertebrae, right? That's your vertebrae right there, okay? So, let's see here. Let's do it like this. Put this other one on the anatomy. I want you to see that that little thing right there is your vertebrae. So hold on one second. All right, which is also your ankh, if you didn't know. The vertebrae. See how it's got the line going through it? That's the top half of the vertebrae. If you notice, you have it on every one of them. Okay, right there. And it's on the spear. So, now, so you have the double-headed dragon representing the intestines, right? Different areas, same knowledge, okay? Now, as you can see, right? Now, this is how you know even further. One, you have the king vulture here because that's for consumption, okay? The king vulture is the bird that consumes everything. So that represents your mind, right? That's the top half of the brain. You have the open mouth or the empty eye, right? You have the feather for the muscles, right? You have the two pillars because it's from both sides, right? And then you have the what? You have the cross, which is your spine and your clavicle. And then you have the little ball at the bottom of it representing your abdomen. So this is letting you know that there's instructions that are coming down from the mind through the waters to the what? The abdomen, okay? So you have the two serpents that wrap around it, representing your intestines. Right? This block that you see right here is nothing but your vertebrae. This right here, that's your vertebrae, okay? Let me show you like this. See, vertebrae. Those are your thoracic vertebrae, okay? That's the part of the body where all of your organs sit. And so what you have on it is telling you which part of the organs that it's operating. Operating or what? Sending energy to. Let me grab my little pointer. All right, here we go. Now we got the pointer, okay? So you have the king vulture, right? And he's attached to the nerve stem, right? And so it's the consumption, right? So it's letting you know that something's being consumed, okay? You have the top part of the brain. You have the open mouth for the energy, right? And you have the temples that it passes through, right? And it passes through those waters, and it gives the instructions or the action to the what? The abdomen, the stomach. Okay? So this is letting you know about what's passing through there and how it affects the brain. Okay? Because your stomach, what? The things that you eat, what? They change and alter the way that you think. Right? Remember, you are what you eat. Right? So you have the serpent. When he's coiled up like this, right, is the representation of the stomach. Okay? So there's many different serpents, all right? Anything that you see, all right, check this out. You see the serpents? See, there's a double-headed serpent right here. See, he's got two heads. See the serpent right there? Okay, those are your serpents. Okay, it's the veins and the arteries and the things that are in the shape of a serpent. Okay, anything that is tubular can be explained by a different serpent. And you'll find that there's many different ones that are used in order to display these things. So, let's move along. Right? You have the Word of God, right, written on the tablets. Right? Remember they told you that the Word of God came in tablets, right? Right? And so you have the words that are written on the what? The lungs. Why is it written on the lungs? Because the lungs are where the breath comes from. God would be the breath. Right? Okay? So, can't make out all the symbols. Right? You have it passing through the serpent, you have the waters, you have the frequency, you have an exchange, you have the raising of the sun, right? That's why you have the two muscles here and the little moon. Okay, you got the baby birds, so there's something brand new that's being created, that's being passed. Okay, so it's a new word or a new life, right? Okay, and if you see, it's the same thing repeated each way around, right? It's over and over and over again, right? This exact same one is this exact same one right here. Okay, same shit, different day. So you have the word or the breath, right? It's the shape of these are your tablets, right? Because it's the word of God. The word comes through what? The breath of life, your lungs. You can't have the word without the lungs, right? So it was tied to the lungs. Okay, that's where it originates from. Now you get this version now, which, doesn't really, it still shows you the same thing, but now they're, trying to change things a little bit, right? Because it went from the 42 laws of Ma'at down to the 10 commandments, right? So let's keep on moving, right? So you have Horus. Right? Now, Horus represents your basal ganglia and your thalamus. Okay, that's your thalamus right there. Okay, this is you see the hook? That's this. Okay, that's found on your basal ganglia. That's the part of the brain that sends all of the instructions throughout the body. Okay, so they tell you that he's a hawk or a falcon. The reason that they tell you this is because the falcon blots out the sun. So it's the exact opposite of what it really is. Horus is in fact an owl. Okay, it's an owl. It's not a hawk or a falcon. Okay. Now, the reason that you're learning these body parts, right? And the reason why they represent these body parts is one thing. First off, realize that each one of these characters, each one of these body parts has its own individual function, which means that it would have its own personality or its own animal. Okay? Because these are children's teachings, just so you know. This is basic elementary stuff. You're in elementary school right now, is what this is. Okay? So the owl is used to represent the what? The wisdom. Wisdom is what? The application of the knowledge. So you have the owl or the knowledge, right? The owl that's on the edge, the knowledge, right? And so that knowledge is what? The information from the brain that applies to the rest of the body. Okay, so Horus represents your basal ganglia. Okay. Now, if you notice, that's located right near what? The put Amen. It's the place where all of those energies from the Amen have to go through. Okay. No, they're not guardians. No, get all of these ideas of gods and things of that nature out of your mind. Okay. You have to get these ideas out of your mind. That's all New Age stuff. Okay. New Age stuff has you believing in gods and great deities and all kinds of nonsense that removes all of the knowledge from everything. Okay, that's what they give to the people that can't understand things and can't comprehend things. Okay, so don't allow yourself to be indoctrinated into these ideas. Why did they give him that? Well, if you notice, all the stories that they gave you were allegories, right? They tell you that he's the god of the sky, right? And that he travels down to the underworld and back. All right? That's what they tell you about Horus. Now, how's that significant? Well, you have the basal ganglia, which is the part of the brain that sends the information down through the body and back, right? It sends the information out. The information has to go down to the organ, and after it goes to the organ, it gets a receptor that sends the information back to let it know that it's operating correctly. It's the same allegory as the god of the sky that flies down to the underworld and returns. You understand? All of the stories that they gave you about these were hints. They're all hints and clues toward what it actually represents. Okay? Just like, but it's all always backwards, and it's all misinterpreted or done incorrectly on purpose. Like, for instance, right? You go to the movies and you might have seen a movie with Dwayne Johnson in it that represented the what? The Scorpion King. Right? The Scorpion King. Right? But it's never been about the Scorpion King. Right? For some reason they have a very hard time leaving things feminine. Like, the feminine side of things is definitely under heavy suppression due to the people that are in charge of things, you grew up in a Masonic system, and the Freemasons are everything except for with women. They go against them. Right, so you get nothing but anti-feminine things. You understand? That's why you got a Bible that gave you a story about an Alpha and Omega and the God, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, right? They couldn't say the woman. They couldn't say the mother. They had to say the Spirit, right? Because it would be too revealing, right? So, that's why you're in a very masculine system right now, right? Because it was never about the Scorpion King. It was about the Scorpion Queen, right? The Scorpion Queen, because the scorpion itself represents the reproductive organs, right? The scorpion lays down in the underworld, right? Down in the ground, where it controls things like unaliving and birthing things in that area, right? Same thing as the reproductive organs, right? It's a female reproductive organ, okay? It fits perfectly. So they gave you a story about a Scorpion King instead of giving you the story about the Scorpion Queen, because things would start to point where they come from if they revealed too much, right? So you have the scorpion that you can literally see right here in the women's reproductive organs. Okay? Well, Lilith is Isis. All of them break back down to Isis, because Isis is what you would know as the spirit in the Trinity. She was the female in the Trinity, the reproduction. Now, if you don't know why was Isis seen so much, is because that's the reproduction of your organs and things that you go through every single day. So Isis is there through the production of everything. You see? See, because she represents your ontogenesis, ontogene Isis, right? That's why you got the Genesis is the first part of the Bible, right? It's gene Isis, right? But it's just spelled a little bit different. Look. Where is it? Right? Because the Bible was never, until you go into the Greeks and everything like that, it used to be Isis. That was the beginning of the book, right? See, 1599 Geneva Bible, the New Testament of our Lord Isis Christ. Now, because we live in such a male-dominant system right now, and because everything has been done from the Masonic perspective of masculine is the best thing ever, and there's nothing better, and they'll give you a shit about calling it Isis, what it really is, and they'll tell you that it was Lessis. But as you can see, the capital L is right here. So I don't know why they want to try to say that it's Lessis. Because the L is right next to it, and that's definitely an I. It's definitely a capital I. No, not Zeus. No. Where do you get Zeus out of this? Where do you get Zeus out of IESVS? See, the S became the U. Isis. Okay? Okay. Now, if you notice in English, I after E does what? I. Makes the I sound. Right? Doesn't make an E sound. Makes an I sound. The E becomes silent. Isis. See, you can decipher this by their new little system. Right? But their new little system reveals more about the old system that they got it from in the first place. This is Isis. They want to keep trying to swap it around and change it, because they don't want to give the credit to where it belongs. But Isis is the one that's in charge of your rebirth, your regrowth, okay? It's still in your medical books to this day, right here. Ontogenesis, ontogene Isis. That's why your Bible starts off on what? Genesis, where they tell you about how man was created, right? Or the gene of Essis or Isis just like it showed you on the cover of the book, right? Because this was an elementary book, okay? See, Isis, the Genesis, the creation and the growth, this is why they tell you that Isis is the one that births man. This is why they tell you that she holds him in the womb the whole entire time. It's all allegory. You have the male phallus, you have the seed, you have the womb that's inside of the female reproductive organs, they hold the staff, which represents your femur bone, letting you know that it's the lower portion of the body, right? And as the seed is being presented, you're getting what? The nerve stem and the temple, the bones and the nerves, okay? It's the harvesting. These are harvest moons, okay? The seed of life or the seat of life, right? All these things come from this, right? So this is where understanding the developmental growth comes from. That's why it's called ontogenesis. Or ontogenesis, the other word for this is what? Ontogeny. And the last portion of that, evolution. All of these things are what are represented in this picture right here. Okay, it's showing you the development of it. And why she is always carrying it to herself is because she represents the energy that binds everything together. The ontogenesis, okay? That's an electrical or an etherical process, okay? So that would mean that Isis would be the third part of the Trinity, the spirit, right? The father is Osiris, right? Osiris and Isis. Why Osiris? Osiris represents your endocrine system. Okay, that's the part of your system that connects all the nerves together. Right, the first thing that is created inside of the body, inside of the woman. Right, the very first thing to get created is the nervous system. After the nervous system, then the heart, then the mind, so on and so forth. Okay, the first thing is always the nervous system before everything else. The mind is already there through the sperm. Okay, that's where the mind is at. It's the sperm. When your sperm is your spinal column in your brain. That's what it is. Okay. We don't have to complicate it and make it other things. Your spinal column in your brain. That is what sperm is. Okay, I don't know if you really paid attention to this. Let me show you. Okay, that is your brain, your nerve stem, and your spinal column. That's all that it is. Literally. Okay. What happens is the magnetism of that, once it gets inside the egg, the magnetism of this mixing with the egg itself then creates a vortex that pulls everything in towards it. Okay, and everything builds off of it from inside out. Starting, this goes in first, and then while this is in there, you have the housing of it. All right, look at the rib cage. Just look at the shape of the rib cage. Right, the sperm would be back here. Right behind that, you would have the heart, which forms right here first. Okay, and as the heart forms, what happens is it creates that vortex, and look, everything goes in towards the heart. Notice how all of this is in a vortex. Your rib cage isn't flat; it's in a U shape like this. That's the other side of the vortex. If you've looked at a vortex, this is that infinity. This is the 2/8, the infinity symbol. Okay. Because your heart is a vortex. It's a black hole. That's your black hole sun. Okay, that's where the energy comes from that everything draws into. That's your black hole sun. So when you're looking at shit like this, trying to figure out what the fuck they're talking about, okay, your heart, your mind, okay, the left and the right hemisphere of it. Okay, this is the energy as it pools in. If you notice, the last place on your body to come together is what? The hole at the top of your head. Okay? The hole at the top of your head is the last piece to go together. But you act like that hole at the top of your head doesn't have an opposite. Don't you have an asshole too? Right? Difference is that stays open and that closes up. You got That's because that's the top and the bottom of the vortex. Notice how as the energy comes in, it makes it so that the point at the top of your head is the last thing to be put together. But all the energy passes through the vortex and then goes out in a vortex, right? So the bottom part is done first. The little booty hole gets on there first. Okay, your booty hole is the first completion. The little hole on the top of the head is your last complete. Why? Because the energy's pouring in this way and releasing out this way. Notice how you go to the bathroom in the same direction, right? You eat at the top and release at the bottom. You're following that vortex the whole entire time. I know it sounds fucking stupid, but you know, just I know nobody really put it to you quite like that, but think about it for a minute. You still follow that same vortex today. Okay, you still follow that same vortex today. You eat at the top and release at the bottom. It's the same vortex. Every animal eats in that same manner. Everything was built in that same way. That's what this is about. Okay. So let's get back to it, right? So moving along, right? Now you understand what the worm is. When they tell you, oh ye that were a worm, right? When they talk about that in the Bible, that's what they're talking about. The worm, that's your sperm. That's you. Yeah, the microcosm. Exactly. See, doesn't this make... See, the thing is, right, this is what I find hilarious, right, is that people have a problem with me explaining these things because they can't see it. Because they went and, you know, like I have some people that know the Medu Neter that love coming in and seeing things from this perspective because the Medu Neter is basically the basic language. What I'm showing you now, right, the things that I'm giving you now is what you would find in the mystery schools that everybody that's learning the Medu Neter is missing. Because the mystery schools are about the what? The big picture, right? So you can understand all these little words all you want to, but these little words don't tell you half the things that the big picture does. You get what I'm saying? This is what you would consider the mystery schools. This is where I can show you the mathematics. I can show you the psychology. I can show you the biology. I can show you astrology. I can show you chemistry. I can show you the breakdown of your blood system in the hieroglyphs. I can show you all of that. But you're not going to know that by studying the language that they put out. I have the books to study the Medu Neter, right? I have their interpretations of these things as well, right? But look at this. Look, see this right here? Look, check this out, right? This is your nerve system, and this is also your blood system. Okay, this is also multiplication. This is also division, right? Addition and subtraction. Right? Because everything's the opposite, right? Because you can read it left to right or right to left. Now, typically, they would tell you that this has to be read from left to right because the faces of the men are facing to the right, right? But if you notice on here, you also have a second set of faces on this, which is facing in the opposite direction. And you can see some of the ones down here are also facing in the opposite direction, okay? So, what you have here, right? Now, look. All right, see this guy right here? See how he's standing on a what? A foundation that's on the boat, right? So it's the foundation of the boat is what it actually represents, right? And you see how he's pouring out what they're walking into, right? They're walking through what he's pouring out. But if you notice, each one of these cords is also bound to this, right? So he's pouring out what? What's binding the cords together. So that would be, the cords would be your what? Your veins. Right? Inside your veins, you have what? You have red blood cells, white blood cells. Then you have what? Either infected or, what do you call it? Energized, right? It can be infected or energized. It all depends on which way you look at it. If you're looking at it from the bottom going up, you'll see a cleansing process. Notice how it goes from one set of the white cells down here, and then you have the golden, meaning that the white is now energized, right? And if you notice, there's a mixing going on. You see how there's two heads now and one head, then two head, two head, two head, two head. All right, so it came together, right? Notice how there's two sets of feet, two sets of arms here, right? So if you notice, you have the gold that's large here, and then you have it disappearing, and then the leg comes out front, and then the gold goes behind, and then the leg's more out front. So what you're actually looking at is this. Let's go like this, right? What you're looking at is the process of it moving. That's what you see here. See how it's going around it? You're watching this happen. It's telling you about the rotation. You understand? So what you see is one leg pops up and it moves, and then another leg moves forward and it moves, and then another leg and then it moves, and it, you see? So what you have here is there's multiple different things that you can take out of this depending on which class it is. First, you have the white blood cells, right? The red and the white. The red represents the blood, and then the white. Now you have that being combined here or going through a cycle, a cleansing cycle or a renewal cycle, right? And so as these go through the cycle, if you notice up here, the 2 becomes 1, right? And as it's 1, if you notice, the legs are still there to carry it, and now it's all bound together. See, down here, everything is split still. You see, down here, it's actually coming together, and up here, it's now supporting the other one as 1. You understand? So this is the cleansing cycle of your blood. This is also, what do you call it? Energizing it. Or if you look at it in the opposite direction, it becomes what? How something is attacking the blood and moving something out of it. You understand? So it's the same thing, but the opposite. So when they tell you that you can read the hieroglyphs left, right, up, or down, what they're actually telling you is that you're supposed to read them left, right, up, and down. Whatever is on one side is on the other side. It's just the opposite of it. So you have a cleansing process or you have a destruction process. You have a multiplication process because, you see, they're multiplying together, right? Right? So now you have multiplication, but if you look at that in the opposite direction, you now have what? Division. Now it's being divided and separated into individuals, removing some. You get what I'm saying? So if you look at it from the top down, you have what? The separation, right? Or subtraction. If you look at it from the bottom up, you now have what? Addition, right? So you have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You have the blood cells, you have the energy, and you have the new cells, right? All bound to the ship. You get what I'm saying? So, all of that is learned in a very simple process, right? You even have the reproduction of it at the top as well. Right? If you look at the top, you'll notice that you have the male and the female, right? 2 that are separate, right? Now, on this side, they're bound together. So that's multiplication of it. On this side, they're separated. So that's division of it. See, so it's more about the eyes that you have to see, right? Because certain people, they'll see this, and what they'll tell you about this is, oh, it was a slave ship, right? And that slave ship, they had all of the slaves that were pulling the ship along. Right? And they'll give you some fucked up story about that, but that doesn't explain none of this other stuff. Right? They'll give you that, right? And they'll give you a story of a man that had a whole bunch of people that were all tied together by a rope that were passing through some red water, right? It must have been passing through red water because it was red, right? And he went from one side of the world to the other and da-da-da. You get what I'm saying? Bro, if you spam my chat with that shit one more time, I'm just going to block you. Okay? I don't know what your purpose is here of spamming it over and over again, that, you know, you teach these things with blah, blah, blah. But my guy, you made your point once. Let it be. You're I don't, I give him the wings. I don't want to give him the wings, man. I'm not going to give him the wings. He's just trying, you know. I don't mind if you advertise your shit in my chat, bro, but just you know, do it once and leave it the fuck alone. People will come and follow you when you show them something worth being followed. Right? So here you have the blood in the veins, right? You have Osiris, right? You have, who's that? Thoth, when he's in the form of a monkey, okay? You know what I'm saying? So you have the nerve stem, you have the arteries, right? That's what these two things represent. The rod and the staff, that's your nerve stem and your arteries, okay? Because your nerves and your arteries are both tied together, right? Now, you have this is your what? Your lateral ventricles and your pineal gland that sits on the end of it. That's why it has the muscles attached to it, right? The feathers, okay? The reason that the feathers are attached to it is because this is where the actions come from and the actions are created from. So he wears Amun's crown, right? This is the crown of Amun, right? That eye that you see, okay? So this is the connection between the what? The mind and the heart and the rest of the organs. This is your endocrine system, okay? That's what he represents. So that's your endocrine system, and you notice how they have the tooth that come down, right? Because you have your what? Your pulmonary and your ascending arteries, okay? You also have the two waters that pass up and down your spinal column, okay? On your spine, you have two sets of water. Let me show you. Where is it? This one here. Oh yeah, that's the iPad. Look, see? You have the two flows of water from your spinal column, right? So that's when you see them pouring stuff out and everything like that, right? So when we look at this, that would be this right here. See? The two rivers between the upper and the lower Nile, right? That's the Nile, okay? So you have the two rivers, and then you have the what? The Red Sea, right? Okay? Or the blood. You have the water and the blood, okay? Because they tell you in the Bible that you're connected through the water and the blood. Bro, I know it's it's not, because it's not an interpretation. This is what was passed on to me, and I'm passing it on to you, my friend. These are not, like, guy, just relax and enjoy, my friend, okay? Now, if you look at the diagram of the organs, right? Stomach, kidney, right? The heart, okay? Throat, all that, you have Osiris's head that's in the lower half, okay? Bro, why would you... Bro, you're crazy if you think you don't want to come back. Of course, there's going to be some shitty things that are going to go on in your existence when you come back. But you're crazy if you don't want to come back. Things keep getting more and more dope. All this technology and stuff that we're creating and all these new fucking realities that are being put together and all these new existences. Trust me when I tell you, you just think that you don't want to come back right now because you don't realize how fucked it was when you were here last time. It's like, okay, like this is the only thing there is to do besides exist. So you don't want to stop coming back, okay? So, as I was saying, so if you notice, you got Osiris right here, right? Okay, you got Osiris right there in your lower half. And then you also have him where he sits on the throne. Okay? Now, if you notice, Osiris, when he's on the throne inside of the brain, right, he'll always have the two ladies behind him. Bro, there is no... It's not... Bro, okay, look, let me explain something to y'all, because y'all got these... Okay, look, right? Reincarnation is not how people think that it is, okay? Realize that you are your own frequency, okay? You have a very specific tune to yourself, okay? It's your unique verse, okay? The verse that you create with the sound and the resonance that you are. So, that being said, now this is a shared experience, right? Because it's all part of the same thing. You're part of the all. The all is a part of you. Everything is made out of the same thing, no matter what it is, right? Because it's all a thought in the first place, okay? So, realize that you're going to experience as many times, in many different things. You're always going to be similar. I'm tied into my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather was tied in, like you understand, like you'll find that your blood is what keeps you being you over and over again. It's the blood, okay? So certain bloodlines, right? Because that's the only thing that's different inside the vessels as far as genetic structuring is the blood itself is separate, right? So that carries certain things. And you'll notice that certain blood has certain attributes to it, certain looks to it, right? And certain capabilities to it. So the blood is what carries the charge of that frequency, and the water is what carries the memories that go with it. Okay. And so a reincarnation is simply the binding of it with a specific partner that brings forward a specific energy when they're two mix. And so you have different variations. There's billions upon billions of different fucking frequencies, right? And yours always varies at a certain level. Okay, that's the level that you can tap into, and you'll find that other people can tap into as well. You know, you'll have shared fucking experiences of certain sorts. Right? Because all that shit's tied together. So reincarnation is not necessarily like, you'll find that in reincarnations that there are physical attributes that are similar because it's close, because it's like you have a certain bandwidth for each archetype, right? There's a certain bandwidth, okay? So this whole idea that everybody can raise their shit to the same frequency and da-da-da-da-da. Like there is a ceiling to the frequencies, right? Of how high you can get, right? There's a ceiling to that somewhere, right? But you can get to a certain level to where you're able to... It's not even that you can tap into everybody's consciousness, but it's like you can tap into like everything that's tied to your level of consciousness at a certain point. Because you can take your own frequency and magnify the strength of that. Okay, that's what you're doing, is you're magnifying the strength of it. Okay, the more you magnify it, the stronger it gets, the larger it gets. Now, the larger it gets, the more it encases, which gives you what? Access to more memory, more ideas, and more thoughts that are on that same wavelength. Okay, so understand that when you say you're going to be reincarnated, that you can't even control that. It's an automatic thing. Like there's no way to stop that, because frequency exists no matter what. Secondly, you wouldn't want to, because each time that the expansion takes place, we're tapping into new things or old things that already existed that we didn't know existed, or something. Like it's something along those lines. Okay, it's this infinite loop. Okay, and so through that loop, what you're actually doing is expanding it, and it expands until what? Until it pops, and then it starts over. That's your reincarnation. Okay, once you get to a certain level, that's it. That's as far as you can go before it bursts at the seams. Once it bursts at the seams, that redisperses it in a little bit into everything, and then there's a wealth of it that gets plopped out somewhere, and then that wealth is then grown again. Right? It's a repeat cycle. Okay, there's no number or no limit to this. It's just an ongoing thing. So you're always going to come back, right? So you should not even worry about things like that. It shouldn't even be something that you waste your time comprehending. There's no point in worrying about an afterlife. If you understand that you're just the energy, then you understand that you've been through this billions of fucking times before, which means that you're already in your afterlife. So stop asking about it, and let's just move forward from it. Because that's just wasting time that you could be doing epic shit. You could be exploring and learning epic stuff. Like, don't get stuck in a fool's trap of trying to figure out what doesn't need to be figured. Right? You're supposed to live in the now. Right? The now is in, if you're worried about death, then you're worried about the future. If you're worried about your past experience, then you're always living in the past. Yeah, that means that you're missing all of the opportunities that are available for you. Right? You have capabilities that I would like to introduce to you. Things that you're able to do and accomplish, and things that you're able to unlock. And it's all right here in all these texts, because they break down the system. They break down the construction system of the body and how everything operates. Down here is where you learn about the what? Down here is where you're learning about the effects of the food in the mind, because you are what you eat, right? And so you have, right, the purity, right, of the information that's traveling through your spinal column, right? See how the muscle, see how you got the feather right there? Oh, wait, let me show you the muscles, the feathers. Hold on. I want you to see this. And no, we can keep it open in this one. Okay, right? So I want you to notice, right? Because you're going to see this all over the place in here, all right? You see these? See this little guy right here? That's a muscle. Okay, these are the different types of muscles that you have within your body. I want you to try to remember this point, this picture, okay? Now, if you look at these pictures, right, you can see where they're being represented down here. Okay, it's all about knowing what things look like so that you understand what they are, right? You have the strap right here, okay? You have the radials, okay? All right, you have your nerve stems, which is the part of the muscles, still part of a muscle group, right? Okay, so you're looking at the different organ structures and the different muscle parts that go with the body, okay? It's not just, oh, these are vases, and these are fucking plants, and these are donuts, and, okay? Like, look, you see this right here? This is your hips, okay? That's your hips right there. Look at the shape of it, right? You have the one circle that's up here on each side, right? You have the triangular type shape, right? Now remember these shapes, right? Remember these shapes. Look. Where's the skeleton? See? Look right here. All right? You have the 1-2 holes here, and then you have the 2 holes up top. You have that rounded shape, and then you have, okay, look at that right there. Now let's go back to it. You see? That's this right here and this right here. See, up here is where it's being stored, right? You have the male and the female version of it. Down here, it's in use, okay? So you got the 1 hole, the 2 hole, and then you have the action of it being cut in, right? You see how he's putting it in, right? You understand? So all of these are your different organs. Okay, that's all this right here. That's all of your endocrine system. That's all these guys right here. Remember, you got the hippo for the stomach. You have the large intestine on the back side, the small intestine that goes on the front side. Now, those organs sit and are tied to what? The reproductive system, right? Now, as you can see, the blood is being passed through it, right? That's your aortic arch. These are the arteries, okay? That's part of the arteries, all right? So you have them all tied together, right? The instructions that come from the brain, are the what? The foundation of it. That's why it's underneath of it. Okay? So the effects of what you're eating, right? You have your large and your small intestine, then you have the blood, right? Because your blood rushes through your body, the lion, okay? Now that the blood, right, carries the energy. See the little stars? Stars are what? Energy. That's you. O ye stars of light. That's what it says in the Bible, okay? So now all of this takes place inside man, right? At the lower portion of the cross, your spine and your clavicle, okay? So this is all dealing with what? The energy that travels through your digestive system, okay? And how that affects your thoughts, okay? That's this right here, okay? This is the big diagram of that, okay? You have the bones, you have the blood. The blood is passing through the nerve stem, okay? It's carrying the energy, right? You have the instructions that come from the mind, right? Because you have Thoth, which represents the monkey, which is your midbrain, which is hear no evil, speak no evil, and see no evil. Because the midbrain has none of these things. It's just the observer, okay? So you have the monkey, right? Notice how he's dropping something out, right? Dropping out the instruction. It's being extracted, and then it's being carried to the heart. That's your heart on that side. That's the serpent for the ventricles, okay? So you have the heart. Notice how they don't talk about this cross, right? They don't talk about these scales where they have the heart versus the serpent, right? So what it's showing you is the energy that, right? You have the instructions from the mind to the heart, or the energy from the mind to the heart that's weighed by what? The energy of the things that you consume, right? That's why you have the blood that's being distributed through the artery by the animal, right? You have the hippo's body, right, with the little pregnant nipples on it because it's feeding it, right? It's feeding, right? Feeding the new energy, right? You have the lion for the passing of the blood, right? The rush of the blood, right? You have the alligator or the crocodile for the intestines. So you have the intestines in the stomach that are giving something out that's going up through the nerve stem to the what? The frontal, occipital, perennial, lobotic lobe, the parts of the brain that are tied to your nerve stems, okay? So this is the science, right? This is explaining the effects of how the food that you consume affects the mind. Okay? That's what it's showing you. That's why you have the action of it passing through the vertebrae. These guys sitting like this represent your vertebrae. Okay? These are the disciples. Okay? So when it's sitting like this, notice how it starts with Horus, right? Because Horus is what? Where the instructions get passed through the body, right? And then it's passing through the vertebrae. All right. Going all the way down to what? There's Sekhmet, the one with the alligator, right? You got the alligator right here and right here. All right. So it's going all the way down to the lower portion of the body. And then it's going through a cycle. Okay. So they're explaining the effects of the foods and how that affects your what? Your endocrine system. That's why you have Osiris sitting over here. Okay, because he represents your endocrine system. That's why you get split into the 14 pieces. Right? You know, the story of Osiris. Osiris is the brother and the husband of Isis. They are the children of Amun and the father of Set, Horus, and Sekhmet, right? And so the story that they give you is that Osiris and Isis go to a party that Set had thrown for them, and in the party, Set divides Osiris into the 14 pieces. right? That's the story that they give you of Osiris. And now, looking at that from a God's perspective, like he got separated into the 14 pieces and spread amongst the earth. And then after he was spread amongst the earth, Isis puts them back together. That's the story that you're given. Now, let's look at that from a medical standpoint. Isis would put him back together for what reason? Because Isis is the ontogenesis, the development or the developmental growth. So what is this really a story about? It's a story about renewing your organs, because Osiris represents your endocrine system and Set is your pons in your medulla, the part of the brain that the instructions have to pass through to connect through your spinal column. Right? Set. Notice how he has the nerve stem as his tail, right? And then he's got the two little... I'll have to get you the other picture of the brain for that. But so they tell you that Set and Horus battle each other for the throne that Osiris sat on, is the story that they give you, right? But this is the instructions that pass through, that go down to the endocrine system, okay? That's Set right there. This is your medulla, and this is your cerebellum. It's also known as your pons, okay? These are your olives. So when they talk about the olive tree inside of the Bible, this is the olive. These are the olives that hang off of the olive tree, okay? So this is Set, who is the pons, okay? So you have Osiris that got split into the 14 pieces because when he comes off of the throne, he's going to the underworld, or down to your stomach, down to your heart, down to your organs. That's the underworld, right? So he has to pass through Set. That's the splitting of the 14 pieces. Okay? That's the allegory behind all that shit. Okay? And Isis is the one to put them back together. Why? Because they're talking about the regeneration of your organs. Your organs regenerate consistently over and over and over again. Why do they say that it's a party? Because it's a burst of energy that it takes for the resetting, right? For your ontogenesis. Okay? And that goes from your birth until your death. Okay? And that happens on schedule. There's a schedule that you don't know about, right? And if you understand the schedule and you understand how all these things put together, they're starting to give you instructions on how your body works and operates, and how you can optimize it is also hidden inside these stories. So, right, once you're able to put it together, then you can see the whole picture, right? So, you have Anubis, who represents the tongue, okay, or the word, right? The word of God, right? Of God, or what? Dog. The D-O-G is the G-O-D. You'll find that if you replace the word God with dog and reference the dog to what it represents, which is your tongue or the frequency, you will understand where all the references come from what do you call it? For that, what kind of love is that called? The one where it has no restraints? Fuck, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Tip of my tongue. Unconditional love, right? The dog has the unconditional love for you. You'll find that all the stories that have to do with the dog have actual meaning to them when you swap the word God around for the word dog, where it came from. Okay. Now, so they reference him in the Bible, you know, deliver my soul, my darling, from the dog and the power of the double-edged sword, right? They tell you that Anubis is the one that weighs you at the scales, weighs the heart versus the feather, right? They give you that story, how he's the guardian of the underworld, and that he protects everything. Well, that's because your word is what guards everything, right? Your word is what you stand on. Your word is what protects you, and your word is what gets you in trouble. Your word can affect how you act. The word can affect how you think, right? The word is a very powerful thing. It's a double-edged sword that you carry around with you at all times. At any point in time, you can convince somebody to fucking unalive themselves by saying the wrong thing to them, or you can convince them to fucking grow into a better person. It all depends on what kind of word you're carrying around. Right? What do you have to give people? Right? So the dog is very important indeed. And as you can see, he's always tending to the body in some way, shape, or form. These are teeth. Okay, these are your teeth right here. Okay, the tongue is the back end of the thing. Okay, the dog. So you have death and life weighed at the scales of the tongue, right? The skeleton is what was formed out of that, because the tongue represents the energy, the creation itself, right? And as we all know, your body was created by the energies. Right? So let's get back to this here. Okay. So now we're going to keep rolling along. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to tap the screen for TikTok's sake. They do harass me if I don't have participation going on from the people in the chat. Don't ask me why. I'm not in charge of that, okay? Now, check this out, right? So, you see the serpent all bound and wound like this, right? And you see how it's got all these little notches on it and everything? Representing your gastrointestinal tract, right? How do we know this to be true? Right? First off, you have to look at the big picture, right? In the big picture, if you notice, his hand is right here at the very spot that your intestines lie inside of your stomach, right? Letting you know that indeed this is dealing with his stomach. Now, all of this is missing, right? But there are enough portions on here to let you know what's going on, right? It's showing you the opening and closing of the passing of the organ, right? And the microscopic parts of it, right? The funny thing about this is I actually had a doctor that was in here that pointed it out to me, that these little notches that you see that are going along the serpent, you don't see these on any serpents anywhere else, right? But you see these little notches right here? Let me show you something. Check this out. Let's just go to... Oh, hold on, people. It sounds like it's raining outside, and my dog's out there in his little cage. I want to bring him in, but I just want you to notice that that's what you're looking at right here. That's what's on the back of the serpent. I'll be right back. Let me go get my dude out the rain. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on, Matrix. All right, we better stay in there. One more second. People, grab something to while I'm up.
my gosh, he sees himself in the mirror. I don't think he's ever seen it. He's never seen himself. Oh, this is adorable. This one is
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh shit, you guys almost made it to 40 grand. Good looking out. Why am I showing you this? Okay, so let me explain to you why I'm showing you this. You must have just got in here. Now I want you to notice that these are the large intestine tissues, right? This is the tissue of the large intestine, right? You see what that looks like, right? See how it's these little poles that stick up? See how it looks like this over here? Now you understand what all the little loops are. All these little tiny loops right here is this right here. You see? So you weren't even just learning about the organs entirely, right? You were also learning about them on a microscopic level at the same time. Because this is this right here. So I keep it's like I keep telling you, it's not all about, there's little details to the big picture. Okay. Now, so what's this look like right here? That's the diaphragm. That's the part that hangs down around it. All right. That would be where is it? Right here. See how the diaphragm is? See how the muscle fibers go this way on the diaphragm? That do it like this. Okay. So you have this part right here is this part, the white part, and then you have the muscle fibers that attach to it is the gold part. Okay. And that's what's on the outside of the intestines. Okay. So you're learning about this is still works of anatomy, right? The red for the blood. Okay. It's the blood and it's passing through. And these are the intestines. The small and the large. Big, little. You get it? Why is it represented by a snake? Well, what else would you represent your intestines with to children? The intestines are exactly like a snake. Something goes in one part of the tube, goes through it, gets ground up inside of it, gets twisted around, and then comes out another end. right? You got to think about it. This is cartoons that are made to teach children. Okay? It's basic science and anatomy. You get me? It's very simple. It's very simple stuff, but you know, because we're not taught to look for the pictures anymore, right? Everybody's hung up on the little stuff, right? And while everybody's hung up on the little stuff, the big picture has more information in it than any of this, right? Because we can get into different stuff here, right? Right? We can get into different things, right? So this could be what? Learning to control. Right? You could be controlling your what do they talk of nowadays, right? Your animal natures. Right? That's what they say, and they like controlling your lower animal and all that bullshit. All these different like, do you understand why they're coming? Why they express these things to you in this manner in the first place? Right? It's because they were looking at these when they were coming up with these things. Right? All right. So let's see. Hold on 1 second. While I'm doing this, I forgot I can do this. Give me 1 second. Let me open up this on here because I forgot that y'all ain't got a tap. I got an auto tapper. I just gotta open up one of these fucking TikToks on here real quick. Hold on 1 second. Continue with Google. I could have sworn I already had a TikTok set up on this thing, but I guess not. Go to that one. Yeah, they do say that. But see, I don't understand that how you think the gut could be the second brain. Like, why they come up with that kind of shit. Because... All right, we got it. We got it. Let's click on this so we can join in. Yeah, I forgot about the tapper. I'm turning it on now, guy. Okay. See, look. Hey, watch this shit get all bugged out. Right? Watch. I'm not even moving my hands. We're just gonna let it do it by itself. We're about to go into another dimension, people. It's going to scramble itself over time. Nah, let me stop fucking with you. All right, hold on a second. All right, hold on. Let me plug this thing in. Get them taps going on autopilot. Bing, 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 bing. All right, there we go. All right, here we go. So, let's see. All right, so what didn't we go over in here? You got this one, right? So you can really see the basal ganglia, right? This is all mental magic stuff, by the way, just so you know. Just in case you were wondering if you can get access to this. You got to talk to my boy Frank. You got the basal ganglia, right? Which is the eyeball right here. Okay. That's this loop right here. Okay. That's this guy right here. Now, on either side of this is your thalamus, right? Which is what the eyeball represents. Okay. Now, this controls your movement, learning, habits, and cognitions and emotions. Okay, regulates your sleep, your consciousness, and alertness. Right? So all of these things are controlled by the basal ganglia and the thalamus. See? Right there. Now, both of these are connected on the inside to what? The put amen. All right, back to the amen. So, they give you the story of Horus being the god of the sky, right? Clearly, your brain is the sky because you have gray matter, which is what clouds are. And then you also have a left and a right hemisphere of your brain, right? So the sky is your brain, okay? That's also the top of the tree of life. That is the tree of knowledge, okay? And all of these things. The brain, or the lamb. The brain is also the lamb and the loaf of bread. Okay, all these different things reference the same thing. Okay, so you also have the universe. All right, that's that spiral. All right, I once had somebody try to give me shit for not knowing that the spiral was the oldest fucking symbol that was around. Well, I don't think it was. I'm pretty sure the fucking line was, but we'll let them breathe with this spiral idea. But this is your universe right here. Oh yeah, the Fibonacci sequence, right? See, I told you, different magnets, right? There's a magnet for the mind, right? Because look, you got to realize when you were born, right? Right. Think about it, right? When you were being born, you were this inside of the womb, which created what? The magnetism for your brain. Okay. Now the womb adds in what? The heart. All right, because the nerve stems get created off of that. Now look at the shape of the chest. Look, right? Everything goes to where the heart hangs, right? It's like right around here in this area, right? So you have the vortex that goes in, right? This is your 8. It's your number 8. This is the top of the 8. The other side is the bottom of the 8. Right? If you notice, it all goes in like this. Right? It's all going to where the heart's at. So you have the heart that draws in this way. And then on top of that, you have what? The sperm that draws in at the top. Right? Because your brain has its own magnetism to it. Right? And so the top of the head is the last thing to get closed off because it's pulling everything in. Now, this is pulling from inside of the heart's. Okay? Like the heart pulls one direction. It's pulling down and in this way, which is bringing in the pieces that are needed to go to the top. Which is why at the base of everything it's flat, because that's the top of the vortex for the heart. All right, this is what gives the flatness on the bottom. Okay, that's why your chin pulls down and out, but the nose goes straight out almost. and then the head goes back some. That's two different fields. You got one field that's going this way, right? Which is giving you what? A flatter surface at the base of the skull. Okay? And so your vortex that's going this way is how your face gets pulled out forward. That's why your chin sticks out further than everything else. Because it's a slope. All right? Do you never notice that? Hold on, let me see. Let me show you something real quick. I guess go to notes and create a new one. Do drawing. This work on here? I think this thing's dead. Probably gotta charge it. So let's do this real quick. All right, I'm gonna show you real quick. Let me let this charge for a minute. Boop. Oh, that's why it wasn't working. I wonder if that means it's good to go now. Oh, yep. All right, so check this out, right? Let me show you real quick, right? So think about it, right? Let's say put the heart right here. Like that. This goes this way. There's 1, 2, and 3. Like that, like that, like that, like that. Okay. Then you got the two sides of the heart. Right. And that comes down off an artery, right? Now that's going to go, and that's creating a vortex like this. Go back. Give me red. All right, think about it like this, okay? This is the flow that's created off of the heart. All right. It goes in this way, goes out that way. All right. So notice how it creates these two bubbles, right? Let's get the face on there, right? So above that, you'll have like a brain, right? Boop, boop. Okay, the brain's got a little brain stem on it, blasey, blasey. Your cerebellum. Okay, not perfect, but whatever. Okay, so the brain has its own. All right, going like this. All right, so your head, you have the nose that's right in the middle, right? And then your chin comes down like that. Oh, why can't you zoom in or shrink on this fucking thing? All right, idea. Think about your head goes like this, right? Bang, 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 bang. Okay. That's your head, right? You got your shoulders. Neck. Right around here is the heart. Okay. Just going to do crude and quick. Heart creates vortex, goes this way. Brain creates the vortex that goes this way. Okay. So the reason that your face kind of pulls down a little bit, has this lump, is because the gravity, right? Think about it. You got one force that's being knocked against right here, which gives you the flatness of the chin, or why your chin comes down to a point, right? Because you've got one force that's pulling this way versus another force at the same time that's pulling in down like this. So if you got one going this way and one going that way, that's going to create a what? A point. That's why your chin has a point. That's the very reason right there, right? Now, you also got to realize that between these, there's another force, right? There's the magnetism that goes between the two. Right? So if there's magnetism that's going between the two, it's going to what? It's going to pull it out. Boop. That gives you your nose. Okay? It's the one that goes between the two that gives you the nose. Now, funny thing about that is what's right in this area? Your lungs. You understand, the whole body's made up of magnetism. It's just the different variances of it give you the different shapes of the body. You get me? So your nose gets pulled out a little bit because of this one right here. The green one. Draws out the nose. What, I gotta take this off for it to work or something? Yeah, it must be dead. So yeah, that's how your whole face and all your stuff came together. It's the magnetism between the two. It's pretty dope, right? Well, let's check into that, sir. Let's see. Where is it? Huh. Now, what's your email start with? Huh? Enoch? What's your email address start with? Johnny, right? Johnny Service 954. So don't say that you haven't received it yet. Say that you didn't follow the instructions on how to open it. Because I told you that all you had to do is go to your Google OneDrive and look in the shared with me folder, and it would be right there. So you have received it. In fact, you just haven't checked or navigated to that, Okay, so you're right there, guy. Mm-mm. Now, back to what we were doing. Now, oh, that was that doesn't have to do with this. If I have something different for this. If you want all these pictures and things so that you can go back on my lives, and like I have all of these are in a digital book that I'm making, and as I create them, I have lives about them, about what I found, right? And I'll explain it all to you, and then you can take your notes so that you can have a copy of this shit to, like, you know, share or teach your kids or however you want to do that off of the stuff that I show you, right? So if you're interested in kids or however you want to do that off of the stuff that I show you, right? So if you're interested in that, it's a $50 donation to the Book of Johnson on Cash App or Venmo with your Gmail address in the subject for this, and you'll get access to my folder that has this, and it also has like a little occult library in it, with all the books and things that I use to reference stuff, things like that. So I'm not writing words in this. I'm just going to leave it pictures because spells are words, and so you can write your own off of what you learn. Right? You just print them out and create you a binder and just write it down. And all the stuff that I talk about is on my lives that are on my YouTube channel, so that you can go over it whenever you want and take all your notes and then make your own stuff out of it. It's a $50 donation. $50 donation to the Book of Johnson on Cash App or Venmo with your Gmail address in the subject. And it has to be Gmail. So anyway, so the body is made of magnetism. When they give you stories about sky gods and things and traveling through the waters and everything like that, what they're actually really referencing to, whether they know it or not, and I would assume that they do know it, which is why they're giving it to you incorrectly. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Hughes. And I would assume that they do know it, which is why they're giving it to you incorrectly. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Hughes. Pin that right there. You just put your Gmail address with the donation, and you'll have access to that shortly. Okay, so when they're showing you these images, right? When they're showing you the images with the water and stuff like that, realize that they're talking about the body, right? They tell you that your body is made of what, like 80% water, 70% water, some bullshit like that. They just give you some number. They don't really know, but they give you a number, right? Now I want you to notice, right? So now that we know what these symbols mean, when we look at these things, we don't look at it as, oh, just these gods that were on a voyage flowing through the fuck. No, none of that stupidity. Look, this is your hip bones, okay? This is your hips, and this one is being led by what? The reproduction, right? You have Isis right there, right? With the waters. It's in the waters. That's why she's in the blue. She's standing in the waters with the waters. It's the carrying of the seed in the waters, right? What you see in the middle of the boat is what you see on the top of her head. This is the womb, okay? So you have the blood, Sekhmet. You have the sternum, right? Because the ribs are being built, right? You have the frog because it's taking place in the lower portion of the body. The blood and the waters are being exchanged, right? Those little rods right there have Horus on them, okay? Still not used to this thing. Sorry. Okay, so you have the ram in the middle. Why? Because the brain, okay, Amun's horn in the middle. So the mind is already together inside of the womb. These are the blood and the bones that are coming together around it. Right? And that's controlled by the what? The thoughts, the energy, and the male seed is what's steering it. Right? Oh, little Jesus guy, are you upset? You can't say that. You can't say that dirty name in my chat. You'll be all right, man. Okay, you just skip along. We're discussing anatomy here. Okay, not fallen angels and fucking demons. Okay, that's what you worship. Okay, not us. So, you have the mind that's carrying the energy. Okay, now which one is that? Hold on, I haven't shown you that one yet. Hold on. Let me show you that one so that you know what it is exactly. Where is it? Where's page 2? That would be... right here. Okay. So the energy... I think most of us are adults, Skylark. I've got some young people in here, but they're here listening and learning. Like, I don't know what's up with that other dude. But look, okay, so when you see the serpent, right? You see the serpent around the orb. It's representing the energy, okay? Now, what you see here is when your eyes are closed and you have sunlight passing through them, and this is the normal light that's passing through your eyes, okay? But this is also the way that your mind operates the thoughts and things as well. It looks very similar to this, but if you look, you can see the owl right here, right? If you look, you can see the owl right here, right? The baby bird, because it's always new thoughts, right? Now, mind you, these are just diagrams of the brain, right? But you get me. So it's the feeding of the energy through the blood, okay? So the different hats mean different things. The different hands do different things, right? And you always learn from what? The book of Psalms, right? I don't know why they threw that S in there. Okay, but it was the book of Psalms before it was the book of Psalms. Okay, so the energy that you see on that orb, right? Okay, the little orb with the serpent. Okay, got it. Now, so you have the seed that's leading everything, right? Steering the spirit, right? The boat, right? You have the Bob, Isis, carrying the blood, right? Steering the spirit, right? The boat, right? You have the Bob, Isis, carrying the blood, right? Bringing it into the formation of the what? The endocrine system. It's building. Right? It's passing through the serpents, right? That's why he's got his hands up like that, right? Because it carries it, okay? And it's taking place down in the womb. Now notice how, right? Notice how it goes from silver, right? To red. Or what? Blood. See? Now that the blood is in it, you notice how things start changing. Now you have the mind that's being built. Hey, peace. Right? You have the left and the right side. Okay? Inside the blood. All the pieces are coming together. He's got the phallus piece on top of his head now instead of it being carried. See? Went from being carried to inside the womb. So did the blood. Went from being the full moon to the blood moon. Okay? Because this is all on a lunar cycle. All right? During the different months, the different things are being built. Oh, thank you very much. Just, I don't know why the Christians get so mad at me, but, they tell you that the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field are there for your knowledge, right? And that's all I'm teaching you from is the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field. That's what these literally are. That's so I'm literally doing Christian stuff. And look, when I'm doing this, I'm doing what? Defeating the gods of Egypt. Ooh. You see how the Creator defeats the gods of Egypt, right? How we defeat them by fucking destroying the idea that they existed with the truth. So now I'm defeating them. See, I'm doing very Christian things right now. I just don't think they understand me. They don't know how to see it. Like I'm literally, everything I'm doing is literally biblical, but yet they get mad at me. Right? Think about it, right? So, because they told you that these are gods, right? And now I'm proving to you that these aren't gods. So what's happening? The gods of Egypt are being destroyed. Right? We're destroying that idea that they were even existing in the first place. They didn't. It was just all people trying to keep you from learning this. It starts to get deep after a while, right? So check it out, right? Let's check it out. Let's look at it. Let's see if there's any evidence. Right? Notice how there's a cross here and how the cross disappears. It's just on one side now, right? Then it's gone completely, right? But it's in here now. It's because he's in here. Right? You see? The brain, but it's the same thing on the paddles, right? That control so they're what? Controlling the blood in the water, right? You see how he's holding the serpent, right? Hey, look, what's that in your hand? Right? Hey, what's that in your hand? It's a serpent. Oh, cast that serpent down on the ground, right? Or cast that staff down on the ground, right? And the staff becomes a what? A serpent. This is how they got these corny little stories. Right? This is how they got those stories. And what's bad about it is they're even teaching this to what they're telling people is the Medu Neter. They're teaching them the same things about gods and things like that. So what they don't realize is that they're being given the system that created that, not the system that it came from. These are pictures for a reason. They're pictures because they don't have words. They're pictures because they're pictures. And these pictures mean way more than any of the words that they try to put onto it. But the way they give you the words, it'll lead you. See, that's how you erase things. You tell them all that, oh, these are words. They're very specific when you put them together like this and this and this. And when you do that, all you have to do is write a story out and be like, this means this, and this means this, and this means this after you write the story out. And then all of a sudden you've got everybody believing everything except for what's actually right there in front of them. So you have the two jugs representing the two hearts. Right? You have the two hearts. You have the serpent. All right? Because they're both coming together. Right? Notice how it's coming out of the land. You have an open mouth for a frequency. right? So that's the energy, right? And how it's moving through as it's what? Changing. See how it's in one, out of the other? The carrying of it to the creation of the what? The new, right? You see the moon with the rays coming out of it, right? It's creating new life, right? Male and female. You have the serpent inside of the womb, right? The tree that's growing, right? Because it's the garden, right? The Garden of Eden. Then you have the sun giving the life, right? See the heart being created inside of the chamber that's attached to the womb, right? That's why the snakes go from blue to red. The blood versus the water that's traveling through it, right? The coming together of the mind. See, it's just explaining and showing the process of it as it grows. But meanwhile, if you learn like the meta nature, it'll tell you that the great sky god fucking this and that was carrying this and they were bringing this and that, like, because that's what they wrote. You get what I'm saying? That's what they wrote off of it, and so they give you the way to read it the way that they want you to read it. Do you get me? So with all those stories, you'll never get what's really there. Or maybe that's why they say it was a mystery school, because you'll get the basics through what they call the meta nature, but you won't understand what's really being shown to you in completion, because you'll be looking for the whole word rather than looking at the pictures themselves, which mean so many more things than just that. The thing is that it's not just limited to one society. It's the same through each one. Right, real alchemy. Okay, it's real alchemy, right? And right, it was taught from one people to another. Right? Until they learned how to give it to themselves. Right? There's been many, many different variations of this information have been, gone through great lengths to hide by switching up names and origins and peoples. Well, yeah, the water and the wine is simply the blood and the water. Right? Those in-betweens. Right? There's a lot of mixing going on. Things started to change over time. Right. Indian agents. Origins of the reservation systems in California. Right? Little things that you can look into that just change how things are perceived. But, there's this big argument of how you go from this and this down to this and this. Right. But that's for a whole nother discussion. Right? That's something completely in itself. All I can tell you is that things look very different here. Notice the stages of the mounds, of how big they were. These are pyramids. Okay. Mounds and pyramids. And look, see the Sphinx and the pyramids. Right? These are all Aztecs with cities in St. Louis and all along the Mississippis, right? And the Ohio ones, right? It was all these people. Olmecs, Maori, Aztecs, right? Which, as you can see, somebody has been copying through each civilization. Ah, there you go, Brian. It was everywhere with everybody. And a bunch of people started mixing in, right? Can even see it in the statues. We know who it was. Right? It happened a long time ago. Right? Right. See. Black. Graft themselves with bear's fat, clarified and using no defense against the sun or weather. Their skins must need be swarthy. Well, what I'm telling you is that thing that you call God, right? That spirit that you chase after is actually something that's internal, right? Okay, that's an energy that fuels you. Right? And that energy that fuels you is decided upon by your thoughts, right? And those thoughts bend the reality around you as you agree to it to be. Right? Now, there are programmed in limitations for the full experience of being what you call human, or a person, or a man, right? There's different, right? There's different capabilities, right, to each individual type, right? But there's definite archetype in a design. Right? See how the three little arches? Right? These three little arches. So you're missing pieces. Notice the little arm that goes up like this, and then see how the big one goes up, and then the little one goes up and out. See? Right here and right here. Right? And then behind that you got the three heads. You know, these three right here. Right? So, you know, there's a lot coming out of the pictures that are making it up. Got here. Let me show you the more elementary version of it. See? See, these are the ones that you find in the German archives. Okay. Now, if you notice how you have this little man that's on the left, see how I was touching on the back side on the left on this little dude right here, right? Going down to the back and the left, right? See how the waters travel down to the back and the left, right? But the blood from the waters, the water and the wine, right? You see how that returns up to the heart, right? You see that? So, you know, this is the German ones, okay? These are the German version, or Russian, I think. Right? So you see that, right? You see how it's down on the left back side and up on the front, on the right, right? Okay, so on your heart, right? On the heart, on the back left side, see how it's on the back on the left? That's where your pulmonary goes, okay? The pulmonary is what runs down into the hips, okay? Now, up on the right side, right, on the front on the right, is where the ascending artery returns it back into the heart, okay? Or I believe they're both pulmonary, but this is the ascending, right? And it runs it back into the heart, okay? So, now mind you, right, while we're here, right, mind you, while we're here, notice how on the back side, on the left, he gets stabbed so that the blood would run down, right? And it would be caught and it would be mixed, right? Notice how he's standing on that little, like that, right? Now, and then on the right side, it goes back up to the heart, right? See how he's coming out of a cleaner, right? He's got the cleaning bucket and he's cleaning. So the clean returns up on the right side, right? So it's on your Jesus too, which is also displayed here on, you know, the Sumerian one, where you see on the left side, it's going down to the back, right? And you see how the left leg, right? You see how the pants leg is on the back side of the left leg, so it's on the back left, right? And on the back left, it's going down to, right, this ox that's standing here, right? Now, I've already shown you that the ox represents the reproductive organs, right? It represents your hips, right? So he stands on the shoulders of the ox. Why? Because that's where your legs would be. Okay. So the blood is traveling down, and then if you notice, it comes in a little wavy, right? And then it goes through this cleansing cycle, right? And then it comes out all shiny and fancy, right? And it travels up on the right side, right? Where it stays up and goes back into the chamber of the heart. And we know that this is the chamber of the heart because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, as in thoracic, that make the chamber that goes around the heart, okay? Or the 12 disc cycle, or the 12 disciples, right? So you have the 12 represented here, right? Notice how there's nothing over here, and don't say it's messed up and ground out, because all these little indentures mean something, okay? It's showing you a cleansing. It's showing you a process, right? So it's traveling up on the right side after it's been cleansed, right? Where it's passing up through the rib cage, and you can see you have the wings for the muscles that wrap around, right? And you see this little 3 thing that he's holding in his hand right here. See this? This 1, 2, 3 with the little saint symbol on the end of it. See how it's on both hands, right? Notice how on either side of the hearts, you have the little capillary things that pop out of there. Little veins that come out. There's 3 of them. on diagram of almost any diagram of the heart. Okay, so that's what he's holding right there. And the 12 is the, where does it start from? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Thoracic, that hold the rib cage in place. Right? Okay. So this is this, but this came before this, and then before this there was this, and then before that there was this, which was here in the Americas, right? And this and this, right? This is all in the Americas before this stuff existed, right? But it's all the same thing being mirrored over and over and over and over again. You get me? Okay. So it's not a simple correlation, my friend, because if it were just slight similarities, it would be one thing. It's just an evolution of it. It's literally the same teachings, just more current. Just more and more current over and over and over again. You see? Little listening ass motherfucker. So the ones that you see now would be the last remnants. Like they want to tell you that they just repainted it, but even before they repainted it, it still looked fresh as fuck because it was still the freshest version of everything that was left behind. Everything else just got leveled out. You understand? So, the fun thing about that is if you can start to figure out one, you can start to figure out all the others. They all start to just combine together, right? Now you understand why the Pope wears the mitre hat, the fish hat that the Pope wears. Right? The bishop's hat, which got turned into the fish after it was turned into this, right? Went from that to the fish to this. Why? Because, all right, so this is the fish head. Then the fish head became the big fish head with the body, right? So what is the fish? The fish is the brain, because it's what? The thing that swims in the waters, right? And your information, what? Travels through water. So the fish, right? So in here, you just have the shape of the lateral ventricles with the pineal at the end of it, and the representation of muscles attached to it, because it's something that sends out the actions. It controls the actions and things. Okay, so this is the blood that travels to that. You have your arteries and your nerve stems. Okay, the ascending artery and the nerve stem, right? So now we've defeated Osiris, we've defeated Isis. We've literally defeated all the gods of Egypt. All the gods of Egypt have been defeated. Isis is the representation of the growth, right? You understand? The serpents represent the what? Your veins, right? It's everything that's passing through them, right? Notice the building process taking place or the destruction process that's taking place, right? See how it goes from many, and then it starts getting destroyed, and then it's completely in a new form, right? The generation process, right? Because how's the generation process start? You go from the one, and the one branches out into the many, and then those many together create a sea, right? And you see all the little entities inside of it, right? And then they organize a little bit. And once they start to organize, it starts to what? Bind a structure together. Once the structure starts to bind, it starts to build, right? The physical starts to come into play. And then once the physical pieces are actually put together, see how they're going through a binding process? right? You see that in there. You see it in the waves, right? And then what happens? They build the structure. Now that structure has the ability to sustain, right? Because that's what the arm is doing. The arm is holding it up, right? You see how it's attached to it, right? You get me? So the structure has the ability to sustain the what? What are these? Why would there be little pebbles in a row, right? Because remember, it's coming from over here, right? The binding of those pieces, it's the building of it. You understand? That's why it's going to the throat. Why? Because that's where your frequencies get created. The energy gets created, right? And so this is showing you, just this one statue by itself is showing you the growth, right? You see how the heart is hanging off here? You have the chambers of the heart, which is also what? The chambers of the mind, right? It's the two of them bound together, right? Because they are through what? The serpents, right? You see the shape of the basal ganglia right here, right? You see the 1, 2, 3, 4 chambers. I gotta get rid of this fucking Siri motherfucker. I'll be listening to all my shit like that. Okay? So, and notice how she's in the waters. Notice how it's building. You see the cells. All right? Each square with the circle inside of it. That's the cell membrane. Right? You understand? You see how it's being passed throughout the body. And it's going through the cycle. Right? The cycle of life is tied to the building blocks, right? So all of that is just this. You understand? But, so, but instead of that, they're going to give you, they'll give you like the snake charmer Isis. And her magical snake that traveled through the stars in the sun. Right, so now think about that. That's a lot of information packed into one tiny little statue. Now do you understand why these things are sacred? And why it matters who tells you about them? You get what I'm saying? You got people that are out here creating gods out of this stuff that have done a good job of blanketing it so that the world can't see it for what it is. They got you thinking about some sun goddess, right? Some goddess that's paganism. It's fucking paganism. And they gave you serpents that came out of trees that talk to people. See how they're talking to each other? Like, you gotta be careful what you get taught. Is it a gut feeling? I don't know. I couldn't Hey, look, right. So let me explain to you how I do this, right? Now, mind you, I attended my boy's school. My brother Frank Burrell. Fucking he created Mental Magic Omniverse, right? I studied his works heavily, right? To the point to where I represent them now publicly, and I'm somebody that I'm considered a minister of Mohammedan traditions and ways and things, and I do represent them, like. And these are the things that I can see after studying that. Now, mind you, I had already started looking into hieroglyphs through all of the English translations and things like that. But, like, I honestly didn't really like it. It didn't really sit well with me or make sense. I always knew that there was something that was not that. Like, it was just like, I don't think that's what it meant. I've always known that the information was hidden there. I just couldn't remember. Is the best way I can explain it to you. How to explain it. So it found its way to me, I guess. Okay. So, but yeah, so now that I've gone through all these different things and I've been at it for so many years and stuff, it makes it so that I see things a little bit more differently. Like that was my first time breaking this down. But, you know, I've never like actually taken the time to like break down this image before. So that was my first time breaking that down. So I'm basically learning it as you were learning it, because for me that was an aha moment. Like, and that's how it happens for me. Like, that's how it happens. It all just kind of starts to make sense out of nowhere, and then all of it just fucking you get me? So like I'll be listening. Like, so get me like but it's like, you know, it's something to where the more you look into it, the more things become more apparent. Because all the teachings that we have still come off all of these things. It's just being able to see it, right? If I studied more in science, this would be a more specific recipe for something. This is a scientific process right here. You see the one that has the mini that goes through the waters and creates multiples of complete ones, right? See how it went from 2 eyes to 2 sets of eyes, right? The division that was created, right? You see all the little energy pots in the water, right? But you see how it's the opposite up here, right? And here it's dented in, and here it's standing out. It's popping out, right? So these are now in here. That's where this comes from. So you're looking at a process of a mixing, right? That once it's done starts to create something, and then it's organizing, right? It went from being a little bit scattered and a little bit separated to bound together and then organized, and then it's tied to the arm because the arm is giving strength to something that's holding on to something or carrying something or building something, right? Notice how it's up and down, right? There's multiple things in this, right? So you have the carrying of it, and you notice, right? Notice how the beads went from not in and mixed, and now you can see them mixed in the more that you go along, and then they're completely mixed in with the cycle of it, right? And as you see, there's a track of them going up into it, right? There's one missing here and one missing there. So what's that mean? That's an entrance point and an exit point. So it's letting you know that there's some that are coming out into this, right? And that's where you're getting these rows from. Okay. Now, the question that would come to me next would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Why is it back to that 12? Why? Because you have what? Now look, right? There's 12, right? Right? You always hear about that 144, right? So wouldn't that be 12 but 2 sets? Notice how there's 2. So that's a multiple of 12. So that's your 144. So you know that this is dealing with cells, right? You know that this is dealing with the building of a structure by a frequency that's being created. Understand? And you look, one's long, one's short, or what? One's masculine and one's feminine, or one's adding and one's subtracting. You understand? There's a lot in this. Like everything, like these things are all created for a specific reason, the way that they're made. Well, yeah, you can say a baby being made, or you can say what? The generation of man. Yeah, this is Isis, or onto Genesis, or the gene of Isis, or evolution. This is the demonstration of growth. Yeah, the cycles of the waters too. Yeah, no, that's right. Well, yeah, the neck would be where the energy is. The mouth is where it comes out from, right? The nose is where it goes into, but the neck would be where your energy is stored. You get what I'm saying? Like that's where your Adam's apple is, right? Hey, there's one guy. I was watching this one video, and there's one dude who says something that was hilarious. He was like, "What if?" He was like, it says in the book, in the Bible, it says that all men are liars, and in the book, it claims that that it was Eve that ate the apple. But what if it was really the man that ate the apple, and he lied about it and just pinned it on Eve, and that's why man has an Adam's apple. Oh, oh, that's pretty good. Oh, that was pretty fucking good. The man lied about it, so he's got to choke on that apple forever, right? Because he's the liar. But anyway. But yeah, so they were definitely hiding the fact that look, I just want you to think about it for a minute. Like, what makes more sense? Like, woman creates energy for the man, right? Man creates the physical shit for the woman. That's the exchange of the equality. That's where the equality comes from. The woman creates the man creates stuff for the woman. The woman gets stuff, man gets another little man. Like that's the cycle of things. They create us, we create stuff. Pretty honest cycle there. It makes perfect sense because most men, we could just live under trees and be happy. So it would make sense that the woman was in charge of the creation of man and mankind, because that's a generation. Right? Man creates, they generate. Women generate, men create. That's why women are emotional and men are physical. Physical means we have to base everything off of statistics, angles, and variables. You hear what I'm saying? Okay, meticulousness. Right? So, we build the physical, they build the spiritual. Okay? So, the energy of creation belongs to the women. They're built for that. The physical stuff is for men. We're built for that. Very, very simple. Very, very simple process. Very, very simple nature. Because it is nature. Okay? So, all that is explained here. Okay? The male gives it. The female receives it. Right? That's where there's the big gap here and no gap here. Through that, you create. And when it comes together, it starts to build something different, right? Because then it goes from being something floating in the water to binding with the waters. And then it starts to build a physical structure, right? You see how the waters just disappeared? Because that physical thing builds in the waters. And what's the first thing that comes into fruition? The heart. Right? Is the heart. You see the little cells down here in the stomach. Notice how the body's missing, but she's in the water or a body of water. See the little serpent right here? Where the ear should be? See, it's not an ear. That's a snake with the cells inside of it. Why would it be the snake with the cells inside of it? The serpents. Right? Well, they tell you you're a lamb. You see that? This is this. This is this. Look, there's just parts to the book that you know you're not able to understand correctly without the pictures that would go with it. You understand? It's hard to understand those stories. Like, otherwise, you got to believe in fictional characters, right? In order for you to believe the stories in the Bible, you have to believe in all kinds of crazy shit. Like guys that were climbing mountains to talk to bushes that burnt and told them stories. Right? And you have to try to believe that and believe that to be true. If I fucking walked up to you right now and told you that I went climbing the top of somebody's hill and a bush that was on fire started telling me stories, you would fucking walk away from me immediately. You would about face abruptly and just take off, and not even you wouldn't even have to think about it. I would as well, because who the fuck is this lunatic talking about these burning plants that are speaking to him, right? It's either that or you're clearly on drugs, one of the two, right? But yet you'll tell me that you believe that in a story where it makes absolutely no sense. But if I can show you where they got that from, and not only make sense of it, that'd help you out to understand what it was they were learning, right? When they learned about the story of the guy that they said was going to a burning bush, which is your cerebellum, right? See him? In the burn, which is your cerebellum, right? See him? In the burning bush, where they say that he was getting knowledge. See him? In the burning bush, where they say that he was getting knowledge, right? About the rules and the way that things are, right? The lion, the pride of the lion, right? Order, structure, right? The little dude inside the burning bush. You got the one that they told you was Thoth, right? They got him standing right there, said that he was giving them knowledge, right? So you see the knowledge that's being plucked out of the tree. You see him taking the apple, right? Oh, right? You see all kinds of stuff going on here, right? So you got the burning bush, right? Here's your burning bush story, which is actually your cerebellum. That's this thing right here, the little thing that looks like. Here's your burning bush story, which is actually your cerebellum. That's this thing right here, the little thing that looks like it's on fire when it's active. All right. Okay. Then, of course, you have Thoth or Tahuti standing there, right? Because they told you that he represents thoughts and fucking intelligence and all this other bullshit, right? And then they gave you the lioness, right? Who represents pride, order, structure, right? The will, the wrath. Okay. So getting the instructions of what to do and what not to do from a burning bush. The cerebellum is a thing that the instructions of what to do and what not to do from a burning bush. The cerebellum is a thing that gives you the response to the memory or the thought. You know, your reflexes and things, right? Cerebellum. Okay. So that's where that story comes from. Right? And they give you this story of Moses, right? But Moses is also a process that's found inside of the body known as osmosis, which is where it's basically, let me break it down in the easiest way possible to explain to you. It's the cleansing. Basically what it is taking an abundance of substance, running it through a sponge and making it even on the other side. That's what it does. It evens and balances out. Okay? By taking something from one side and moving it to another. Kind of like the story of Moses getting the people out of bondage, right? Because there were all too many of them jammed into one place. And so what he did was took them from one side to the other, which evened out all the numbers, right? All right, passing through the Red Sea, right? He took his shepherd's staff and parted the Red Sea with it, right? You know how to separate the waters with the shepherd's staff. Okay. Where's your lung? Where's your blood and shit go through the cleansing process in that in your lungs where they get pumped in around and shit? You know where the word is, where the word resides at, right? Every breath as they put it. You get what I'm saying? Like, All right, so we gotta keep beating this into people's heads on a regular basis, because I pray you come to the knowledge of the great I am. What do you mean, my guy? I'm giving it to you right now. Matter of fact, we're defeating all the other gods that you ever heard of. You understand? I'm giving you the fucking word that you've been thinking you've been getting. What are you talking about? I'm giving you everything that they describe in the book, right? I've defeated every single Egyptian god that they've tried to throw at me, right? They're all defeated. I've disproved them as gods themselves. I've been breaking spells and curses with my words alone. Isn't that what your fucking Bible says that somebody's supposed to do for you? Right? All right, haven't I been using the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field to give you the knowledge of the stories inside the books? Like, haven't I been showing you the origins and sources? Doesn't it make sense why there was a problem with a golden calf? And the story of Moses, why they were worshiping the calf. Do you want to know why they were worshiping the calf? Here, let me show you real quick. I should make that one next. All right, we should make that one right now. No, we already have one on that level. Hold on a second. That would be why would they worship the on that level? Hold on a second. That would be why would they worship the calf? Where is he at? Why would they worship the calf? Where is he at? Where's that dude at? There he is. Bink. Your Alpha and your Omega. The calf. Right? They told you that they worshiped the golden calf, right? That they were sacrificing the first son to the calf, right? That's the story that they give you about the Phoenicians and about the people that Moses freed, right? They were worshiping the golden calf, the Taurus symbol, as people scream, right? But there's a little bit to that, right? And yes, we'll get into the Alpha and the Omega as well. Okay, so the calf, as we've already discovered, the calf represents your reproductive organs, the Bible, right? The male and the female reproductive organs, right? And now, so that you know that I'm not incorrect, right? You guys always want to go back to Hebrew with everything. You don't want to go further than Hebrew, but you always like to stop at Hebrew. So, in Hebrew is the Aleph, which is, dude, get that button out of the way, man. See the Aleph? See what the Aleph is? See, we go back to Phoenician, where it comes from, right? The Aleph is the hieroglyph of the ox head, and it means the ox, the strength, and the leader. Okay, that's your Alpha. Okay, now the Bet is the house, right? Right, which is, I don't know where they got house from. That's just what they were fucking making up on shit. This is a little Fibonacci. That's the, you get me? Okay, with the right angles attached to it. Okay, that's a growth process. Okay, so, but your Alpha and your Beta, your Aleph and your, okay, so that's your A's. That's your uppercase and lowercase a. It's all male. It's all masculine. That's your Alpha, is the A, and here's your Beta. Oh, it's all masculine. That's your Alpha, is the A, and here's your Beta. Right there. You just cut out this part right here. That's your Beta. Your Alpha and your Beta. It's the letter A. All masculine. Why? Because you're getting a Masonic and religion. Okay. So, being that it's the ox, right? So they give you the story of the first son that gets sacrificed to the bull, right? So, see, with the gross story of these gods, right? You went and followed Jesus on the other gods. He said, beware the false prophet that comes to you inwardly in sheep's clothing, that comes to you inwardly with ravenous intent, right? And he'll say, follow me on to other gods, and only through God can you get, right? Did everything that he told you about. He told you about all these other gods, right? Oh, they were pagans and they worship gods, right? Right? He told you about all these other gods, and you believed him about all these other gods. Literally the very thing that he was warning you about, right? And so they gave you a story of gods. Now, if we understand that these are reproductive organs, right? And you have the fathers that sacrifice the first son to the bull, what are they talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Well, let me help you out. They're talking about reproduction. If the bull is the reproductive organs and it's the father that's sacrificing the first son, the only begotten, the one that gets through, right? Sacrificing it to that bull, right? Oh. So what they're actually talking about is the act of having a child, right? Because if you don't, oh. So what they're actually talking about is the act of having a child, right? Because if you don't have a child during the reproductive times, that energy then goes and returns act of having a child, right? Because if you don't have a child during the reproductive times, that energy then goes and returns back to your system. But if you have a child, that's a massive amount of energy that you're dumping, which is, so when you do this, you're sacrificing to the bull. That's why you get horny. Think about that for a minute. You get horny, right? You turn on red light special, right? You turn on the red light, right? What also chases red? The bull. You turn on red light special, right? You turn on the red light, right? What also chases red? The bull. Right? That's why they wave the red flag at them when they're in the ring with them. Right? You don't put the pieces together? Well, luckily for you, ma'am, you guys don't have that problem the way that we do. You see, you guys have a 28-day cycle. We have a 24-hour cycle. You understand? So you only have one chance. You have one 3-day window per month to fucking lose your energies. But on the flip side of that, yours stops like somewhere around your 40s or something like that. Your system, I don't think that's natural. I think that's because most of y'all are on birth control, and so y'all dumping them eggs out like crazy. I think that might have something to do with it. I think y'all supposed to have your eggs a lot longer than that. That cycle doesn't seem right. But anyway, so hold on a second. My little fucking thing says there's 80-something thousand likes on there. I don't see no 80,000. All right, there we go. Now it's on the right number. Let me put the tapper back on here. Pink, get that shit running. Run it up. Hold on, let's slap a couple letters in here for a comment first. Make sure that it registers me as a person. There we go. Let's see if that works. All right, so anyway. So yeah, the sacrificing of the child to the bull was reproducing, right? See, because you have the one begotten, right? And it's a son at the time, right? It's a son still, right? It's all male here, right? But it carries the male and the female genetics, right? But, you know, so that's the only begotten son. Everybody's the son of God, literally. It's all male right here still. It doesn't decide until it goes to the female, right? Once again, we go back to Isis, right? That's when things get decided, right? Right? That's why the male, you have the serpent that's carrying all the little buttons. See? Carrying all the little buttons. See? going to the female to be dispersed to the female to be dispersed and built. You get it? That's where all that comes into play. Now you understand why I had to show you everything about the serpent. We just went through all of that just to explain this one little piece right here. Okay. That's also why you see the face here that has both the male and the female. Or the long and the short. You get what I'm saying? That's why that comes off of there like that. The energy that comes out of it. Why? Because that's the male seed. That's why the sun is male and the moon is feminine. The moon receives it and reproduces it. The sun just fucking The moon receives it and reproduces it. The sun just fucking whips it out and fucking goes. One's in and out and one sticks around. You get me? So, yeah, men's cycle is every 24 hours. Dog, it takes 64 days, I believe it is, for sperm to mature into completion. You get me? Are these all the same? Oh, look. Oh, look. Hey, how many cycles are there for one, two? Oh, look. Hey, how many cycles are there for one, two? Just out of curiosity, right? It is a trimester, right? Well, I like Jordan, but we have two similar. But you know what? I do like his work. Yeah, I did like his work a lot. He was almost there. Yeah, I did like his work a lot. He was almost there. We just have different views on certain things. We just have different views on certain things. Right? Different views on certain things. Right? So why 4? Oh, 4 seasons. All right, because it does happen once every 4 seasons. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12 that way, but it's 14 the other way. That way, but it's 14 the other way. Well, it's a 4-moon cycle. Well, it's a 4-moon cycle. Right. Now there isn't 3 here, but there's 1, 2, 3. So you got the 3, 6, and the 9. Right. So it's a 9-month cycle. I would be so mad if I sat here and counted this and it came out to 144 and all these little bubbles. Like, why are they so specific? That would be hilarious. But you do have the 12 here, right? You have the 12 strikes, but that also makes 14. Or is it 12 times 2? See, because the 144 is simply 9. Right? That's what it is. It's 9. And of course, 9 can be broken down into 3 if you divide it by 2. Right? That's 3 times 3. So it would be a 9-month cycle. Well, we have a 24-day cycle because we're meant to reproduce and our sperm is constantly being fucking grown. That's why. 24-day cycle because we're meant to reproduce and our sperm is constantly being fucking grown. That's why. Okay.
Where do you want me to put the mushrooms in?
Huh?
Where do you want me to put the mushrooms though?
Leave them where they're at.
Alright.
I just put him back in his cage, if anything.
Oh, okay.
Let him run around for a little bit. All right, so see, in here you got the 2 different waters, right? So it's showing you that something's being created inside of them, because if you look, this is flat and this is raised up, right? That's at a different level than everything else, okay? And the reason that it's touching on the arm band is because it's showing you that it's binding it, right? It's binding it and it's carrying it. It's putting it together. It's the creation of it, right? the creation of it, right? So it's got 24 rays. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Correct. Yes, it does. So I wonder if there's 60 little dots in here for the minutes. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So you got 9 and 9. 9 per eye. Right? And you know what's interesting about this is you don't often see the front of the face. Because usually all the eyes are single. Like it's always a side view, right? So it's interesting that there's a 9 over the eyes because that indicates each one is complete in itself, right? Each one, so that's 2 individuals. Do you get what I'm saying? See, notice how everything else is sideways. It means something different when you can actually see the face. Oops, shit. If you notice, in almost everything else, you'll never see it like that. So whenever you do see it like that, it means in almost everything else, you'll never see it like that. So whenever you do see it like that, it means something different all in itself. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. All right, that was 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. All right, that was 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 60 seconds. Hours and minutes. See, hours and minutes. All right, hours and minutes. These are individuals, so it's 9. All right, hours and minutes. These are individuals, so it's 9. Right, because you got 3, 6, 9. So it's a 9 what month? 9-month cycle is 4 full moons, maybe? Or 4 harvest moons, or something along those lines? Or is it 9 months in full moons, maybe? Or 4 harvest moons, or something along those lines? Or is it 9 months in... It's 9 months in 4 seasons. So 9 months in 4 seasons. So it's telling you that this is the time of how long it takes, right? Because it's the two nines that are coming together, that are combining to become one, right? Right? Because it's the two nines that are coming together, that are combining to become one, right? God, that's crazy how much information is in there. 2, 3, 4, 5. And look, this thing's only 10 inches tall. Think about that for a second. All that information in one tiny little, like, that's what, about 10 inches tall, say about 7 inches wide, 10 inches tall. And it's the whole you get what I'm saying? That's the whole entire fucking breakdown of childbirth. Breakdown of childbirth. Hey, what up, bud? You get me? That's crazy. Hey, what up, bud? You get me? That's crazy. But now do you see, right? Now do you see why it was so important to destroy all this stuff? Now you see why they keep all this stuff hidden away, because if now you see why they keep all this stuff hidden away, because if you could, like, imagine, right, if all of that is in this one little thing right here, right, just this one little tiny object right here has all that information tied into it, right? Imagine how much is on the walls of the temples. That, right? So we just got to defeat all the Egyptian gods, right? We're just going to defeat all the gods. That, right? So we just got to defeat all the Egyptian gods, right? We're just going to defeat all the gods, and we're going to give you what they really are, right? And by defeating the gods, that'll enlighten you, because then you'll be able to read these things for yourself. And there's going to be things that you'll notice that I'm not going to notice, but once you have the basics things for yourself. And there's going to be things that you'll notice that I'm not going to notice, but once you have the basics down, you'll be able to see all of it and what it's supposed to tell you. So, down, you'll be able to see all of it and what it's supposed to tell you. So, you get me? Because there's a lot of information hidden in this stuff. This is a 28